November 18th, 2023 Committee of the Whole to order. Roll call, please.
Mark,
Yes.
Van Summeren,
Yes.
Thompson,
Here.
Blanco,
Yes,
Elkin,
here.
Enoch.
Here.
Okay. We start with our department head reports. Patty, can you start us off?
Good evening, everybody. We had an airport meeting on Thursday, October 12th at 9 o'clock. We discussed the master plan process and schedule update. We also looked at the existing forecasting data and preliminary aviation forecasts as our based aircraft operations and critical aircraft to formulate that plan. Facility recommendations were also had, and our next meeting will take place in April of 2024. Car chargers. I have met with Troy Keller of Amory Chevrolet and Tim Bartels of Xcel Energy. The transformer has arrived and is set, and power is turned on. They're ready to go. GM has a commissioning process through which we go through their network and do it. It's pretty straightforward and defined through the GM chargers. We will set up estimated costs for pricing at that time, and with Tim's help, any other items tied to the EV infrastructure will be taken care of. And this is the big part. We're holding a ribbon cutting ceremony, and that will be taking place November 1st at noon. And we're asking the council, local press, radio, AEDC, Amory Community Club, and other interested individuals to participate. We're very excited to partner with Amory Chevrolet, GMC, and Xcel Energy on this program. They're level 2 chargers, which are far more efficient. You can get quicker charges faster. So it's really going to be quite nice. So if you can attend on the 1st, that would be great. It's going to be at Sioux Line Park. That's where the chargers are. And citywide electronic sign is in place in the front of the fire hall adjacent to Keller Avenue. Our city administrative assistant, Peggy Marson, has been putting the donors, events, and other information relevant to the city on the sign. And if you see it and have comments, please let us know. We are happy with this addition to our city. And then Polk County Economic Corporation Annual Awards Breakfast. I attended that with Paul Schaefer and others from the AEDC. It's nice breakfast that they have. That was on Tuesday. And I did it in my capacity as director for the city. It was a nice banquet that recognizes the businesses in Polk County that have an economic footprint in the area. So that was a nice event that was held at Miracle Rock, or what is where they have the Christmas lights. They said the Christmas lights there, we asked how many they light up, and they said over 2 million. I was surprised. And housing development in our area has gained some interest. I've had some promising talks with local builders and developers. There are currently a few houses going up now, and we're moving forward with more development. We're getting into the final period of the budget. We're working with our new auditors. We have new auditors for the city, and our budget hearing will be held November 15th at 5 o'clock. And as you could see, we have new faces in our police department with the new police chief and the police officer. So we're excited to work with the new employees in the city. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire Chief Chuck Frone, please. However you want to do it.
Evening. So I'll let you know the results. We got the results back from our ISO audit we had roughly a month ago. Well, it was September 12th. The ISO did raise 1 point. I sent a letter of retrogression back, and we have 1 year to correct the problems. And the only thing that was really troubling was we have to take the ladder truck out more, and just the way we document our training. We do those 2 things, and we'll be right back down to where we were. So nothing real drastic. It's something that we can easily do. And so we have 1 year to correct it, and they'll come back and do another audit in a year, and we'll be all good to go. We do have a truck committee put together. We're getting information on a new ladder truck. When we had the audit, one of the reasons our rate was lower was because of the ladder truck. With a high-rise building, SMC, and apartment buildings on Keller, we need a ladder truck in the event that they catch fire. The size of SMC building, we are required, per what the auditor said, we are required to flow 7,000 gallons per minute. And with the 2 engines in the ladder truck that we have, we are capable of doing that. So the ladder truck is a big addition or a big influence on our rating. A couple months ago, we did have a fire committee meeting. And one of the things that the fire committee, I had mentioned that the fire station needs gutters and snow stops because it is pretty hazardous when the snow comes sliding off the metal roof onto in front of the doors. And it ices up and everything else, plus our generator that's in the east side. The gutters are up and the snow stops are in the hall right now, ready to be put up. Last but not least, the fire department would like to thank all those that came to our fire safety day on the 9th. We'd like to thank Troy Keller from the Amory Chevy who donated the brats, beans, buns, chips, and pop. Would also like to thank Dennis Lutz, the owner of Amory Meat Market, for cooking all the brats and the beans. We hope that everyone who came to see us had a good time and walked away with a full belly. So, any questions? That's all we got. Thanks.
Thank you. Heather, library director, please.
Hi, everyone. In lieu of my regular report detailing numbers of the programs held and the attendance and other library news, I wanted to take a few minutes to speak to the library's new long-range plan and to our 2024 budget. So for members of the public, we'll have this on our website and you can get copies of this at the library if you're curious, and all of you have a copy of this. So long-range planning, why do it? It's a routine part of running a successful library, and it's considered to be a standard of best practices in library management. Long-range plans guide the operations of our library from staffing to materials to programming and partnerships. It's an opportunity to closely examine our library and to determine the role our library needs to assume within our own community. Long-range plans provide focus and help the library board and myself make the best choices for the library and the community. And most importantly, this type of plan ensures that the Amory Library is connected to the wants and needs of the public we serve. In brief, the long-range planning process identified the following major goals to focus on for the next 3 years. The first one is outreach and partnerships. The second one is materials and services. The third is programming. And the fourth is awareness. So again, if you have questions or comments, I would love to hear them, but there's a lot more detail in this report. So please take a look, and members of the public, please take one if you'd like. The other document that I've shared with you is background information on the library's budget. I personally believe it's really necessary for all the stakeholders, both the public, members of city council, to understand how our funds are allocated, how we built the structure of this budget, and how the city of Amory's appropriation, along with those that come from Polk, Barron, Burnett, and St. Croix County, all support our mission, vision, values. And now that we have this long-range plan, how we support that as well. So if anybody has any questions at this point, I would love to take them. Otherwise, I've included my cards so you can call me or stop by. I really enjoy talking about this kind of thing. So anybody?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's been at least some wheel spinning about the whole county's contribution to through the Act 150. And I noticed that it's lower this year but I'm appraised that it's been approved for the same amount. Would you care to address that or?
Sure. So counties are allowed to reimburse us at 70% of the cost of serving their patrons, their clients, their consumers that come to our library. So if you don't have a municipal library and you live in Polk County, but you use the Amory Library, we at the end of the year calculate what is the cost of providing services and materials, and then we bill those counties. State minimum is 70%. They do not have to pay us the full amount of what it costs us to serve. That being said, Polk County historically has been very good supporter of libraries. We get about 90 to 95% of our request. So as far as I am aware, from anyone I've talked to, there's been no talk of reducing the amount. Of course, they have it within statute that they could go down to 70 if they wanted to. We certainly hope they don't. Yes.
That, I did speak to Vince Netherland,
Mhm.
because he said last night they were approving their budget, and he said it's staying stable at 95.
Perfect. I do know that Barron County is having some thoughts about what they are going to reimburse their own libraries at. The counties are all different, but Barron County gives us 70% of our cost. So I know that they were thinking about reimbursing their own county libraries at 70%. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, good.
I just wanted everybody else to know about it.
Yes, exactly. And the reason why our numbers change is because the formula changes depending on how many circulations we have, how many out of county residents we provided those circulations to, and then what our cost of service is. So it's a formula that changes a little bit every year. And the toughest part is we don't know until next year what those counties will give us. So we create a budget based on our best guess, but they could do something different in March. You're welcome. Anybody else?
Thank you. It's a really good presentation. Thank you for that.
Yes, we appreciate it. And again, call me or visit if you have any questions.
Yeah, and we have a really great library.
Yes, we do. I love it.
It's kind of,
The best.
it's kind of the, you know, some malls have an anchor store. We have an anchor on the north side.
Mhm.
Lots of people come through here. So thank you, Heather.
I agree. Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for supporting it.
Okay, Jeff. Public Works, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not nearly as formal. I have nothing for you. Well, I'm sure everybody noticed they're out flushing. So we got hydrants are all done, winterized them now. So if you do have discolored water, just let it run for 5 to 10 minutes and it should clear itself up. We've been out repairing sidewalks and curbs. We just got done on a dig on Summit Avenue today. Had to replace a water valve that had been leaking and causing trouble. Crew's been out sweeping burb mostly and trying to get the leaves picked up and the gutters cleaned. I've been spending a lot of time on budget with Patty and Ben. What else we got? Oh, we also had some issues here at the city center. Pumps that I was worried about downstairs. We've had to replace one already and we had to take the other two out and clean them. That's just gonna be part of the maintenance of this place. Crews also worked with the county to get F done. Had the sweeper out there and just making everything work a little better for everybody. That's done and nice and we needed that.
Mhm.
I did get up in the attic to check out at the senior center. He was talking about the ductwork. It's all insulated. Everything's fine up there. There shouldn't be an issue. So that's, I don't know, that's fine. And lastly, just a reminder, November 1st, parks, campgrounds, dump will all be closed up. And no overnight parking in the streets or in the city parking lots. Any questions? Thank you.
No, thank you, Jeff. And Taylor. Deputy Clerk.
All right, last meeting I missed you for committee of the whole because I was actually in Wisconsin Dells at the treasurers conference. It was my first treasurers conference. And I picked up a lot of really good information that I could bring back to City Hall and share with the other people here. Last week, third quarter water bills went out. I think they went out on Tuesday because there was no mail on Monday, much to my surprise come Monday morning. So they went out, they're due back on November 15th, and then we're actually working on encouraging people to sign up for emailed bills and automatic payment. And we've had several come in that were like, we didn't know this was a thing. So anybody that hasn't and wants to, you can sign up for automatic payment and emailed bills. In addition, with the newsletter and the utility bill, the recycling committee was actually able to get recycling flyers from Polk County. And with our folding machine, we can put 3 things into the envelope at once. So we were able to send those out with the utility bills. So hopefully that'll help encourage some recycling around town, and the blue bins at the fire hall get changed out. I think it's 4 days a week. So we're trying to get people to use them as much as possible. I know they're full sometimes, but try later. On Monday, I did the properties that have delinquent utilities that were delinquent as of September 30th or before, and sent out past due notices to those residents. Anything that has not been paid by November 15th will be put on the 2023 tax roll. So we really try and get those payments in to avoid that going onto the tax roll, since there is an additional 10% penalty for that. Last Monday, recycling committee actually went to community club, so I went to support the recycling committee at the community club meeting. They did a presentation for community club about their recycling efforts, and it seemed to be really well accepted by the community club. I have a meeting next week, Peggy, I don't know if Patty's going, for the charging station. We have to figure out what we're going to charge for the charging stations when people use them. And we have kind of a very unique situation, since there's not a lot in the area and basically none like ours. So it'll be a kind of a price point target to try and figure out what we're gonna charge for an hourly rate to make sure that everything is working well on our end and for the consumer. So it might be a moving target for a while till we figure out our usage and the need and all those things. Any questions?
I guess not. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot one thing. For anybody that goes around town, fire department calendars are out. So local businesses should have them. So just want to let you guys know the calendars are out.
Chuck and the speed over.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
man, it's be-
Okay, our next item is wastewater treatment plant discussion with SEH. I see that Eric and Jeremiah are both here. Thank you for that.
All right, good evening, committee. Maybe I'll start off with a little bit of background why we're here. I'm Eric Henningsgaard, kind of serving different roles with the city. I am not a wastewater treatment designer. That's why Jeremiah is here. He is a wastewater treatment plant designer and did design your plant. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So the plant was originally built largely in the 40s and 60s, upgraded in 95. It needs to be replaced. It's not safe, it's not functioning. And that decision was made by the city some time ago. When you first make that decision, we do what is called a facility plan. Jeremiah puts that together and he can talk more detail about that. But the long and the short of it is it determines what kind of plant would work best for the city of Amory. It looks at different options of location, which is a main concern that I guess we're kind of talking about tonight too. And that facility plan led to us recommending and the city accepting the recommendation of staying in the current location, largely due to cost of a new facility. And fast forward, that facility plan was approved, as I mentioned, and we've been going through design all spring and summer. We actually submitted to the DNR at the end of September for their approval of the design. The plan is scheduled to go out for bid here in the winter, and construction begin in the summer or spring. As part of going through a design like this, it's a very complicated system. You know what comes into a wastewater treatment plant and what goes out. As part of that, we have a lot of regulations that we have to follow with the DNR. One of those pieces is that we need to establish a 500-foot setback from the wastewater treatment plant. It's easy to do when you're in the middle of nowhere. Their treatment plant is in a neighborhood, and it does affect property owners with that 500-foot setback. And as part of that, to comply with that code section of the DNR, we have proposed that there's an amendment to the zoning code, which establishes this 500-foot setback and it limits development within that space. So back end of September, we had a plan commission meeting that had a public hearing. There were several questions that were raised. And the recommendation that came out of that from the commission was to potentially look at the cost of relocating the plan. We've had several discussions with staff. And as we had mentioned in the facility plan as well. And I had mentioned, at that public hearing, we didn't do a detailed cost estimate of relocating. Because it's much more. I mean, I know it's not very engineering like to note that, but it falls really low on the list. As we talked about at the plan commission meeting, the current facility planning, been working with the Ellers, does require that you are increasing rates to your users. And it's just part of what needs to be done. Imagine, I don't know if it's double the cost, but it's obviously affects the rates as well. And so the council at the time had said they had agreed with the facility plan to stay where we're at, and I guess we're here for any questions.
To me, it also sounds like, because I'm, looking just through the executive summary, it's the plant has either exceeded its useful life or it doesn't deal with the overcapacity situations, and there are operational issues. So something needs to be done.
Correct.
And the other problem we have would be time. And it seems like if we were to work on relocating, there's a significant amount of time involved, because first, we don't have any land. And second, depending where it gets sited, I'm thinking that the licensing changes, because it's all green. There's nothing there's nothing that we could go back to. It's all going to be current standards, which also will make things more difficult. And then the infrastructure to get wastewater all the way wherever it's going. And I know that means probably a major lift station of some kind, and infrastructure to get there. So when we're talking about the cost of the plant, say it's double, the cost of the land plus infrastructure plus time makes this an unworkable alternative as far as I can see.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's really the conclusion that was reached in the and we discussed with the council, back at that time, I think a year ago and earlier this year when the council adopted the plan. Obviously there's all the things that we're doing at the current site, plus all those other things like you mentioned.
I do have one question. One of the concerns that's been raised is just like the long-term positives of staying where we are. In your opinion, as a professional who does this on a regular basis, does it have a long life if we stay where we are as opposed to starting something brand new somewhere else?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we look at in the facility plan is that the 20 years, what is this going to look like 20 years from now in terms of flows, loading, so that we don't build a facility that, is good for today, but, then needs to be upgraded shortly. So over the next 20 years, we use population projections from the Department of Administration. Those are relatively flat for the city of Amory. So there's not a lot of growth projected. This facility is designed to serve for those next 20 years. Now, obviously, we don't want to limit ourselves to that. Time marches on after 20 years are up, right? And so certainly we want to look at expandability in the future. And with the demolition of the existing sludge and centrate storage tanks, the existing oxidation ditch provides adequate room to double or triple the facility in the future, which really is adding SBR or sequencing batch reactor tanks, adding modules to provide that additional flow. So to answer your question, there is room for future expansion if needed. on the site.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that. So when you talk about future expansion, are we, like, let's say we added 1,000 more residents. Now that wouldn't be homes. So I don't know quite. So 250 homes. You know, are we considering expansion in that future plans?
Would those, are you asking if that amount of increase would necessitate expansion of the facility?
Yeah, or would what you're proposing, would that be sufficient to handle additional expansion of 250 homes? Or whatever?
Yes, yep. So, within that, so like I mentioned, we designed a plan for that 20-year population projection. But within that too, there's typically about a 10% additional capacity that's included to account for, whether it's an industry that wants to come to town, or a residential subdivision or something like that, to give the city that flexibility to be able to add that. So, for 1,000 residents, or a 250 home expansion, you're probably looking at say 60,000 gallons a day in additional flow. And what we're looking at for design flow is in the neighborhood of 400,000 gallons per day, just to kind of give you a sense of the scale of it. So it is additional flow, but it's reasonable to accommodate.
Thank you.
And then also, excuse me, to add on to that question, is there's always the concern that, okay, we now have another industrial park, and what if a large industry comes in? And I think you obviously just answered the question that this will set us up for success. You never know what's going to come, but for the near future,
Right,
we'll hopefully be okay.
right. And you always try to balance that. You don't want to build such a facility to accommodate every what if,
Mhm.
that you never end up using a fraction of the capacity, obviously, because that all costs money. So yeah, I mean, we try to strike that balance between building the right size facility and having some room for growth to maximize the city's investments.
Other question back there?
It's not a hearing. Okay, do you have any or can you elaborate on the zoning change and what that would basically mean to anyone that is impacted by that?
So and we worked with DNR on making sure that what the city puts in place is meets their requirements. So all of this gets back to a code requirement in NR 110 that calls for this isolation distance, the separation distance to be maintained. So the way that it's worded in the code is that it's residential and commercial uses, and the specific language that I don't remember, Patty, if you have that ordinance language in front of you, but essentially it limits future development within that area. Which I think, in discussion with staff, we said what likely, would prohibit a new structure being put up, or a new dwelling being put up, a new residential or commercial use being put up. That would be kind of the intent of that amendment.
And I'll add, or maybe
Go ahead.
I'll add to that too. So it would restrict new, if it's a vacant property, if a home were to burn down, it can be replaced. The existing structures and uses would then be designated as non-conforming uses or structures, which there's abilities within your zoning code to do improvements through the zoning board of appeals and or the plan commission, depending on if it's a use or a structure that can go through the non-dwelling structures like a shed. This does not apply to. Somebody could put a shed without any restriction beyond the regular, building code setbacks restriction piece of it.
So garages and patios and a room addition onto an existing structure are all eligible to be permitted.
They are all eligible, yeah. I would say the one that you listed there that may take another step with the plan commission or zoning board of appeals, I don't remember which one, would be that room addition, because it's for dwelling.
Does this impact property values for the families or owners of property around there since it's being rezoned?
I can't say. I mean, the treatment plant's been there a long time. Certainly. It does with this setback and the 500 feet, just what we went through, there are restrictions. With somebody buying a property, would that deter them or change? I guess I don't know.
Other question back here.
It's not a hearing.
Thought this was an informational session.
It's not really open for the public at this point.
So you're afraid of questions, is that it?
No, but the rules for following meetings are there for a reason.
Yeah, public
We have
comment at
number
the
10
end.
on the agenda, which is public comment, which is when anybody that has comments
I
could.
have a question for the engineers.
It's public comment.
Yeah, I'm sure you can ask them after, or if you have something specific, but not at this time. Not part of the meeting. Anything else? Any other questions? Any things that you would like to add or make us aware of?
Else comes to mind at this point.
Okay. Thank you for your time. Thanks for the reporting. Thanks for the design work. Thanks for being available.
You bet. Thank you.
Number 3, Jorgensen Field ownership discussion and update. We have an appraisal that came in that says that the property is worth $95,000. There was other discussion I know that we had the last time as to how we would want to handle a potential sale and how the funds would be used, how we would allocate, whether it would go into the Jorgensen Memorial or something like that. I had worked with Patty to get some language drawn up with our lawyer to allow that to happen, if that's what we chose.
I did start the process, but I really don't want to put anything pen to paper until we have another meeting, Sean. I'd like to sit down again with you and with Eric and the other. No, we don't need to do that now.
Okay.
But I would like to sit down and meet before we put pen to paper, because I don't think now is the time to.
No, it's not. This is an informational thing.
Exactly.
The other
So-
thing that had come up
Sure.
was, some of the other issues that, or how we would
Oh, you
deal
know,
with this, yeah. So at this point, we know we asked for an appraisal, we have it. And
Oh, at that time too, we'll have our city attorney present too, so that he can kind of go over what.
When would that be? The next meeting of the whole?
no,
No,
we can do this in between,
do that in between. Yeah.
whenever.
I would like to
we can
reach
make it
out
work.
to everyone involved and see what
I'll
works.
just wait to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's out actually gone this week, so it won't be till probably next week or,
Whenever.
okay, Sean, yep, so.
Okay,
so
now you know that part.
to come.
Number 4, purchase offer for parcel IDs 201-01070 4 zeros and 201-0165-0000. This is the Soldier Field one.
Yeah, and I guess I don't want to really talk too much about it, but I wanted to let you know that there has been an offer on it.
Mhm.
Don't want to discuss that until we.
Well, I think that one of the things that came up at one of our other meetings was the council would like to know when things like this are happening
Yep.
before the next meeting comes around. I know that this has been assigned to the planning commission. But so you know, there's interest, you know that there's been an offer.
That's already gone through planning commission.
Nope, not this.
It's the Soldier Field discussion.
Okay, oh, yeah,
Yep,
okay. So
this is the south end. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to refer the purchase offer to the planning commission.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Motion made and seconded to refer this to the plan commission. Purchase of offer of for Soldier Field. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay. I have a tickle. Yeah,
And then
yeah, it'll come back.
it'll come back to the
Also,
council, yeah. Hotel study proposal. There was a proposal from Hotel R&D to do a hotel feasibility study. We talked about it before from different directions. This is the third time we've got it coming. There's activity. So that's not a bad thing to have interest in putting together a hotel package.
this is very similar in price to the original one that we got from Zakor. I can't remember the name of it now, but anyway.
Yeah.
This individual had kind of thrown his hat in the ring to begin with, and he was very interested in maybe doing a hotel too. But he's stepping away from that, and he's very well known in the administrator community. I see him quite often out there working with other municipalities for hotels. So he's very knowledgeable, and he wanted to throw his hat in the ring for possible hotels.
Is this one also able to look at multiple properties for the feasibility?
So that's
I have a question for Paul. Paul, do you think this is gonna be a requirement for anyone that really that comes in for, that's seriously interested in doing a motel?
Yeah, I just saw.
Yeah.
78-page study. 70 pages of it are just verbiage. The financial part is changing, rates, that kind of thing. The verbiage has changed, but the population, other hotels in the area, that kind of thing, but having said that, it doesn't really mean a lot. So, we've had discussions with one potential investor that he won't do anything until there is a new study. But essentially what's being talked about here is a study that whether that investor does something or not is material. The city wants to have a hotel study, it wants to attract a hotel, I should say. A study's going to be necessary. They're probably good for 4 years. Mike Linder with R&D said that after 1 year, he will update the study, so it's got a 3-year life if you want to top of that. But yeah, your chance of getting a brand interested in here without a study is limited to probably stuff. So, just an example, the study back in 2013 was about $4,000. Now they're running up to 15, and the quotes on here are 10, so it's a bargain at 10, if you will. And as an example, a hotel being built back in 2013 was about $2.6 $6 million. Water pool today, it's 11 million.
Mhm.
11 million. So I mean, it's a little bigger, it's 55 rooms versus the 13 you're talking 40. So my point is just, this is a, yeah, big game and people are gonna need information and decisions. So whether or not the investor that we're talking is interested, even if the study's done, you don't sign anything, so who knows? But you're not gonna get anywhere without probably after this study. And they're probably not gonna get it either.
No. No, and there are other things besides costs that have changed because the Highway 64 corridor is moving a lot of people this direction. Main Street's been updated. We're not the same city that we were.
Or distinct group did the first study at 15, the other ones who have submitted them for this time too. They get their time kind of Cobblestone brand. Hotel R&D is not brand. Specific, not tied to a brand, if you will. I'm not suggesting make a decision based upon that. I don't put that out. Not that the score distinction group study could be, but so hotel R&D, before they give a new, that example of the number of communities they work with and that kind of thing. So, yeah, so it's, you know, that's kind of.
What are your thoughts?
I think you've made an important point that I guess if we're gonna do, if anything is going to happen, we have to have something. And what we have right now is obsolete at this point in time. So, you know, I feel like the place that we're in right now, if we want to expand and have offerings for visitors as well, visitors community for events, but also families and friends that are coming to town, we need to have some sort of an example as to whether the city can support it. So I feel we need to do it in order to move forward. It could also be a big piece of businesses coming to Amory.
I was going to say that this is not just this kind of a study also helps us identify some of the things that maybe we don't see as well in a positive way.
How long does the study take?
Yeah, I don't.
21 to.
Shouldn't take a,
3 to 4 weeks.
yeah,
Isn't
it
it
should-
long? 21 days and then additional 7 days on the final phase. So a month.
I have a question just on what Paul was saying about, you know, having a brand name versus a non-brand name. Is that an issue or not? And
Yeah, it's, you know, not that I'm an expert, but
yeah,
you hear both ways. In today's world of Google, you know, you don't need to have a brand necessarily. It could be, you know, the Apple River Hotel in Maine or Wisconsin or something like that. The brand does bring to the picture. Typically, they talk about is the reservation process. For the brand is generally built into that, and it's kind of a big deal, I guess, but you don't necessarily have to have a brand.
I think if you're gonna attract the business traveler, the brand name probably would be preferable.
It's yeah, it's gonna drive, I think it's gonna drive more things to you than somebody going to see. And
I guess the other part of the question that at least I'm hearing the other part of the question is if we don't use Cobblestone's preferred vendor, is that a negative?
yeah, you know, I'm afraid you're gonna ask that question.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
My answer to you would be this: the city has to make decisions to invest in that.
Right.
You decide on a study, you own the study, because the investor in this case, if we're talking to, you gotta get the study and go, I'm not gonna do it again, because he's the same guy who's interested back in this team.
Yep.
So you gotta look at, like, wait, I wanna own this stuff. So if I look at, for distinction, I look at hotel R&D, you know, who gives me the best, most experienced study, whatever, but I own, and I can do it out, any grant, I can do it out.
If they do the job correctly, it shouldn't matter who does it. They should be using the same demographics. They should be using the same numbers. They should all come up with the same answer. Yeah.
I think it sounds really exciting and I think we need to do it.
Just need someone to make that a motion.
I make a motion to accept the hotel study proposal. And I believe it is the $10,000.
Mhm.
And that'll have to be sent to council.
Yeah, it's to approve to council, yes. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion made and seconded to approve to council to contract with Hotel R&D for a hotel study proposal. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, send it to council for approval. Campground pricing. Is that you? I've got it.
So right now, we charge $30 a night for our nightly campground fees, and we charge $450 a night for our monthly fees. The fees have been the same for, I think as long as the campground's been here, I can't say for certain, but they've been the same for quite some time. Our sites are full hookup, which includes sewer and water and electric. Our sewer prices are going up and our electric's been going up. So I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe raise our monthly fee to like $550 and our nightly fee to $35, which is still very much within reason for the area and still very good deals. So I just think it'd be a good idea from that standpoint to look at.
Another part on that, some of the campers that are coming in here have 2 air conditioners and stuff, and they're all using Major Juice.
Yeah, or three. We've been running, we had to replace 2 50-amp hookups, they're 2 or 3. I think 3 50-amp hookups this summer with cheap to do either.
Can you set it up so that you, in a sense, meter each hookup? Not really, okay.
No.
I mean, you surely can, it would just cost a lot to set it up that way.
Yeah, I know,
That for the monthly maybe, but not the nightly, and when you've got 3 campers or 3 air conditioners that come in for the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
And you've looked at price comparisons to surrounding campgrounds?
Yep, we'd be cheaper than Fort Hollow, we'd be comparable to Clear Lake, a lot of them don't offer a monthly fee, so I can't compare that wise, but right now, our, at $30 a night, our $450 is about half price, if you figured it out for that full price for a night. So even at $550, you still have a really good deal.
if I could just comment that, the monthly fee, I think that's fine because you've got somebody for 30 days. The daily fee, I think you can do better than 35. It's just my suggestion. Oh, yeah.
I think Clear Lake is at 35 right now, Fort Hall, I think it's 40. Clear Lake.
I think that would be good. I mean, it sounds like you've been making some calls or doing some investigation about it. I think it would be good to see the breakdown as to who's got what they have, what they don't have in comparison to us, so that we can make a better decision as to where we need to go, just simply because of both electricity and water and sewer hookup. I think that's an important thing. Truth. And I guess on that same note, we currently don't charge for our dump station either, correct?
$5, there's, yeah.
Okay. Okay, one again, our rates are going up. Is that something we want to reconsider? Well,
It's such a, when we set those rates originally, there's such a little bit of, even if you dump your camper, you're talking 30 gallons, less than probably half a day's for a residence. So if we're getting $10, I think that's a good deal, provided that. Yeah. But the other thing I think we could ask when we set the rates is if you have 2 air conditioners, I mean, I've seen big SUVs pull in that have 2. I guess I've never seen one that had 3. But maybe that's a question that could be put on the registration. Do you have 2 air conditioners or 1? And if you have 2, we're gonna charge you an extra $5 or whatever the cost. Yeah, I know, but we do register them, right?
Well, they fill out a slip. And then they put their money in with it. Sometimes they don't fill out the slip and they just put their money in with it.
So let's put it on the slip that says you have two air conditioners on your rig. Then this is then the rate is $5 more. I'm appraised, I don't own one anymore, but I'm appraised of the fact that if you got a rig with 2 air conditioners on, this is probably a pretty inexpensive price compared to the
fuel of getting there. Can you put that together for another meeting? Yeah, because we're past the camping season, so we have time. So take a look and look at other county parks around too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
That's start looking out for next year. We have to have a place. So is this something you want to have on the council, or do you want it back on a committee of the whole, or?
I think the next committee of the whole is plenty soon.
Taylor, do you have any kind of a reasonably close guesstimate as to the income from the campground this year?
Off the top of my head this year, but that's something I could definitely provide for you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something that I can easily track. I just haven't been putting them into the system, so I haven't tracked it at all this year.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, if you can have that for the next committee of the whole that we could take action. Thank you. Possible logging.
I just brought that up.
Yeah.
Only reason I did was we had an interested individual who purchased property off of the industrial park. And that was one of the things he mentioned. He said, I don't want to have to go in there and clear out logs to build something. And the way I look at it, if anybody's going to build something there, the less trees, the better for that individual when they move in. But there's 2 ways to look at it. I mean, is it going to be a big money maker? Probably not, but it'll be something. And it might also encourage somebody to come in there. I know they probably have the equipment and they could hire people, but it was just a thought, just something I thought of.
What made us think of it too, was Ron went in and cleared his out.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
And it's either clear cut or select cut, which a lot of people do select cut because you want to keep the nicer trees and we don't want to look.
Yeah, the challenge would be that if you're trying to predict what might go in there, that might be difficult.
Just kind of.
Don't go cutting all the trees down.
Yeah, you're right. It wouldn't be that much financially. Well, something to think about. Okay. Airport hangar lease update discussion. There's a new lease that we've got in front of us. And some of it's in yellow. Are those the updates?
So the updates that have been made, those are things that report that through. So airport commission wanted those changes in there, so I guess you guys have to officially approve what airport commission wanted. A lot of them are things to, if not all of them, are things to try and make the airport more presentable, to try and store pilots and not store from food stores and things like that. It's to try and
Right.
have actual pilots using the hangars.
And a way to give us a little bit of control, you know.
Some leverage
so you
to,
have something that you can actually go after, that people are doing that with.
yeah,
I know one of the additions is about like blighted property.
Yep.
And the owner take care of it, give up the option to do something about it. And we don't know that.
are there any hangars in use out there that are not what up to this standard? Okay,
Yes.
that's fine. I don't need to know anymore.
It's primarily the occupancy of the hangars that they're required to have our former lease said they were required to have an aircraft or parts or something, you know, related to air traffic. That was really loosely followed, if you will. I mean, some people would bring a couple tires and a wing in and said, no, but it's primarily storage. And so, much of this is driven by the Wisconsin Aeronautical Board that says, you know, we're giving you money. We aren't building storage units, we're building places for airplanes to stay in. So the part that talks about the Part 103 aircraft, that details what you can have, not just parts and then your camper, you know, so that was one of the biggest reasons for this.
Yeah. And it designates that you need to hold a pilot's license as well.
Yep.
So this needs
That
to,
particular comment, though, it says should hold. Are we
I
gonna
think
make
so.
that
Yeah.
necessary?
Yeah, should hold
Should hold.
sufficient.
That's my question.
That a hangar owner may not hold the pilot's license, but they may be leasing out the space in the hangar, which I think is kind of where some of that wording came from.
Right. And that's essentially what it says, that the lessee or the associate of the lessee should have. They're okay with that, just being should have,
They wanted.
okay?
well, I'll make a motion to forward this on to full council.
Your second. Motion is made and seconded to forward the hangar lease updated version to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay. So this is 2024 budget discussion. And then it says pickleball on there.
A zero in on pickleball because Bob wanted to talk about pickleball tonight, so. You haven't before you a quote proposal. And Jeff got this correct? You
Yep.
got- Yep. So you want to detail,
The quote you're looking at is for the blacktop. We would go in and dig out a couple feet of the stuff that's there, get a base down, and then Monarch would come in and pave the blacktop. We'd have to take the fence down and put it back up. Be a lot of work on our end, but I don't see any other way that we could afford it.
Mhm.
And the smaller part of that is or I shouldn't say the smaller part, but there is a smaller part to it that would be for the parking lot.
He didn't plan on doing that. He just measured that up while he was there.
Right,
It's
right.
gonna need it
So
eventually.
the bottom line is the 57,000. That doesn't figure any of Jeff's time in, but he gets paid regardless, right?
Right, and that doesn't include any of the layout of the courts or fences internally or any of that stuff either, so.
And we have
I
a,
would ask that, Bob, if you have some information to present on anything further, you know, here's the information that we have. If you have more that you would be able to expand on.
Sure, thanks for taking time here, because I know your time is valuable. Actually, I was prepared to make a presentation, and there are others who are here to speak about the need and the benefits of pickleball. Based on watching your meeting from October 4th, I don't know that you need more information about that. I'm here and they're here to provide that if you want. I know that this was emailed out to all of you. I hope you had a chance to read it. That gives a lot of the background information. Do you want me to just go right into the cost
yes.
process? Skip over the history and everything?
I think maybe just a brief message about the amount of people in our community that are using it. There's been a lot of chatter over the last couple weeks about how Amory doesn't need pickleball. So I would love for you to share with the community how many people are using it, the positive impact that it's having.
Okay, and I'll be happy to speak to that. Some of these other people like Steve Wilhelm was going to draw the parallel between the amount of business that came to town when he used to run his and maybe Michaela, you weren't here yet then, or but Steve ran summer basketball camps for years and years, and the tremendous impact bringing those people into town who wouldn't have otherwise been here, the economic impacts of that. And we have the same thing going with, we have a group, our email list is about 80 to 100 people. And these are people that are playing primarily with the Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning group, okay? It doesn't include people who just happen to, families and others who happen to use it on weekends or anything else. Of those 80 or 100 people, there are some that come as far away as 30 miles each way. And there are many that have a 30-mile round trip from Bone Lake or Balsam Lake or Deer Lake, or we have a tremendous number of people out on the Wapagasset Bear Trap area that are using it. And those people who are not necessarily Amory residents, okay, they obviously don't just come to play pickleball. When they get done playing pickleball, they're going to stop and get their groceries here. They're going to get their gas here. They're going to get their pharmaceutical needs here. And so Amory, maybe they even stop at the bar. Certainly at a restaurant. The point is that this has a tremendous economic draw and benefit for the business people of Amory. So is that kind of what you were?
Yes, thank you.
I can't really speak to the people that are using it on weekends as much. Dave Anderson, I know he and his family and a church group have been using it. Ed, you have a group that plays on weekends. Joanne probably brings her grandkids in, and Steve, is there anything else that I didn't cover there that you might want to speak to? Okay. So does that answer your question, Michaela?
Yes, thank you.
Any other, before we get to the cost and process issues? Roger?
So, and I know this is a difficult question to answer, but you know, what is the longevity of pickleball do you see?
Well, I can tell you this, that the number of people playing pickleball in the United States, it's the fastest growing sport in the United States, and it's been that way for the last several years. It's elliptical in terms of the number of people that are playing. We see it locally here, just the number. I would safely say that every week we have new people who come in and are gonna play. Now, maybe they're just in the area. We had a group that came in and played with us for 10 days. They'd rented a VRBO over in Clear Lake. They heard we had pickleball in Amory. So they were from Florida. They came right over and they played with us. And there's others that are tourists in the community, so to speak. They don't have necessarily a summer lake home, but I can't tell you, I can't.
And no, I know that is a difficult question, but you know, you just, you know, you want to make sure if you're going to invest money into it, that it has some longevity.
It's the one thing I would add, you know, as a physical education teacher for many years, we had it at school when I taught. And one of the things that I think would be a real big deal now is if you had these courts that were able to be used, I think possibly you could get like the physical education teachers to have units where we would bust the kids down, play pickleball.
Sure.
You know, then you got community education in the summertime where we have golf and tennis. Pickleball would be a perfect one there. Because what I found over all the years of teaching is that it's much easier for kids to learn pickleball, want to play pickleball for a longer period of time than it is for tennis. It's just a harder game to play. Pickleball, much easier, much faster points. So I think, you know, if you got involved with the school with this, I think you can really generate a lot more people playing, kids playing. And now you've got so many other sports at school. You know, you've got the ski club, you know, fishing, you know, all kinds of things where I think that would be something that you could get going. That would be another club sport that you could have. I think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Just, I'd like to address that too, Roger. Steve talked about tennis. I don't know what it is, 25 years ago or so, the city had a substantial investment in the tennis courts on the north side of town. We took them all down, redid all of volleyball. Or volleyball, geez, I got that on the mind. And all the tennis courts and so on. And the school was using them at that point in time. They had others, you know, every time there was a tournament, they'd have other schools here. Today, that tennis court has a pretty limited usage right at this moment. We've just, item number 3 is, you know, to do with softball, in it we used to have men's leagues, a couple men's leagues that played softball. Now it hasn't. So from a longevity standpoint, it's encouraging to me that old people are playing pickleball because I think that sustains it as much as if young people are doing it. So it is something that probably has a broader age appeal than almost any other sport. I don't play softball anymore. I still shoot trap, but you know, it just is a broad appeal. And so we invested in Jorgensen Field and we invested in the courts in North Park. And I think this is probably I personally think this is a good investment that attracts not just people from outside the area, because it's always about the taxpayers in Amory that are footing the bill. But I think there's a broad section of people that would use it. And that's all you can ask for recreational facilities, right? People are using them, then it's worthwhile. Well, supporting, I never played tennis to speak of, but you know, other people do. So.
Well, I know it's.
I have enough to do.
Yeah. It's been referred to as the sport for all ages. And in that Monday, Wednesday, Friday group, yes, we've got people as old as Ron Scone who was playing even this morning. And I won't tell them your age, Ron. I don't want to. 88. Thank you. And we have, Joanne brings her grandkids and 15, 16 years old. And if you want to feel young, or if you want to feel old, you play against a 15 or 16-year-old. But it is a sport for all ages, and I think that gives it longevity in and of itself. They're teaching in the schools, the kids want to carry that forward. And yes, I think it does have longevity to it. We talked about a 20-year plan with regard to the sewer plant, you know. The surface that you put in now, quite frankly, won't last 20 years. And certainly the sport is going to last a lot longer than 20 years.
Been around since 1960.
So, you want to talk about money?
Yes.
Okay. I have gathered some information and I really appreciate Jeff getting together with Monarch to talk about what their charges would be, because that is the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I'm really happily surprised that it came in at 57,000. I was, in my mind, knowing what other communities have spent, I was expecting it might be significantly more. But I want to talk a little bit about the phases that this has to go through. First of all, the city, under the plan as we've discussed, would be tearing out the current blacktop. And Jeff told me tonight that they probably would take down all the fencing and then put it back up when we're done. The fencing is in relatively good condition, considering the fact that fencing has been there for darn close to 25 years. Those during the heyday of tennis back in the 70s, that's when those tennis courts were built. And Amory was so proud that we had 5 public courts, and then we had the 4 at the school to boot. Now the school has put in 4 more, and so the tennis players have all kinds of options. But be that as it may, the fencing would be put back up when the whole thing was done, and that's going to be a substantial cost saving. City would tear it out, put in 2 to 3 feet of base, and the city has those materials stockpiled. And then Monarch comes in. First of all, you have to let it compact it and let it rest, if you will, to get it good and solid. The contractors I've talked to have said, you know, it would be ideal to tear it out this fall, fill it in this fall, let it rest over winter and compact over winter, and then get it the final prep for the blacktopping and do the blacktopping in the spring. When they come in and do the blacktopping, they need to do 2 coats. They need to do 1.5 inches of a base coat of blacktop, and then the surface coat's another 1.5 inches. But that's all included in that because they've been told this is for a pickleball court. Monarch did the ones at the school, the new tennis courts at the school, and so they're totally familiar. They worked with the one of the contractors that I've been talking to, and everybody seems to agree that Monarch is the best best company to do the blacktop. After the blacktop is in, the blacktop has to cure for a period of 30 days. And then the people who are going to put in the posts, they come in and there's going to have to be not even just the 2 posts for each court in terms of holding the pickleball net, but there also will need to be some interior posts depending on what final design is agreed to, and for what we call barrier fences to keep the ball from going all over from one end to the other. So that's another phase. And in terms of those posts, that's an area where I think we can save some money. But the estimate I got from Century Fence was that for the courts to put in the posts, you should be figuring about $3,100 a court. And if you're talking about 8 courts, it's easy to do that math. And if you're talking about the barrier fence, people I talked to at Century were talking about a $7,000 cost. So the total for those posts and that interior fencing would come to $32,600. Then the final phase is the painting and striping. And that I've been dealing with a company out of Minnesota, and they are the same people who did the high school courts, new tennis courts, and they have given us a figure of $30,500, which would be a 2-color acrylic, which is what they use at the high school. And by 2-color, I mean that all of the surrounding area would be one color and the part of the court would be that same color. But then what we call the kitchen area, which is a kind of a prohibited area under the rules of the game, is a different color. So most everything would probably be a green, and it's not just the painting, it's the ceiling, and they've got to get out what they call the bird bath, little dips in it, and so that it's absolutely, when it rains, that water doesn't puddle anywhere. And of course, they've done a great job on that at the high school, and I'm sure they would for us as well. So with the $57,000 figure that Monarch gave us, we'd be at $120,100. Now, are there some ways to cut that cost? First of all, I want to emphasize that is with a minimum of interior fences. We'd be getting a Chevy, not a Cadillac. Okay. Because ideally, we'd love to have barrier fences inside, even between each court, so that the ball isn't going over onto the other court. But that's not, right now, we have no barrier fences inside except north to south. I mean, that the old tennis courts run east to west, that's the only barrier we have. And we can live without the side barriers. But I think there's some money potentially to be saved. I looked at the posts this morning, the pickleball posts, and they're relatively new, of course. What, Ron, how old are those? Less than 10 years?
Well, 2014 was the first post that were put in, first two courts.
Okay.
And then the others were added 1, 2, 3 years later.
But those posts look to be in relatively good shape. They fit down into a sleeve, so removal is, I think, going to be relatively easy. Those posts that are there for the pickleball courts were actually installed, I think, city crew.
I was at the sewer plant. I really don't know.
Okay, well, okay, the city actually installed those posts, and so I would assume that the city would be able to install posts as well. So we can probably cut some costs here even below the 120, but I would use that as a figure that we need to come up with. Questions on that?
Sort of annual maintenance is required. on the courts?
Well, because of the fact that's all, there's so many trees there on the west end, you know, blowing the courts off. We do all of that, sweeping them off. And the, you know, the pickleball people would obviously be responsible for that. We're not going to call Jeff and say, hey, send somebody down here to blow off our courts. But I do want to tell you that Jeff has done the best he can over the years to try and fill those cracks. And it's an impossible task. If you aren't familiar with how much we need in terms of the condition of the courts, please go down there and walk them. It's a disappointment. Yeah.
Well, I guess what I was also getting at, I'll make my question a little bit longer. What sort of warranty or guarantee is there on the court surface itself and the painting and that type of thing? Is there things that we need to do to maintain the surface itself so it won't deteriorate?
Well, I think the CNH people, Sports Services, has a standard 2-year warranty. Okay. They generally talk about a surface being, meaning the painting and sealing, being a 5 to 7 year deal. But that doesn't mean it's going to have cracks in it. It's just that it wears. The weather wears it. And so I would be thinking that every 5 to 7 years, we may be looking at repainting and resealing, but not resurfacing.
You looked into the price of the dog. I'm kidding.
Bullshit.
Well, interestingly, you know, you mentioned that, Sarah. This has become so big in Amory that they now play every Wednesday night at the high school through the community ed program. And I think you have 4 courts going there, and there are oftentimes people waiting to play there. And thank you to Tracy and the school system that they've opened that up. I think we would have more use at the schools during the winter, except that high school gym is used every other night of the week by some sport, and Wednesday's the only time it's available.
So Patty, at this time, have you and Ben put any of the numbers that we just heard into the budget at all? I wasn't sure if you had them before today or not. No.
This is the only one that.
Okay.
I think realistically, we're talking about common news that our police budget has been dramatically smaller this year. And that's already been paid tax wise for this operating year. So there are some funds to go towards this, that it's not taking away from the police department. It's not making them smaller or anything else like that. It's just extra funding.
This is wages that were
Yeah.
not spent because of reduction in
Right.
numbers.
So we do have sort of the perfect storm for doing this right at this, particular time. And especially if we can do part of it this fall, and that's kind of up to Jeff, I think, as to how much we can get accomplished this fall. Makes sense to let it sit over till spring, but then are we looking at the end of May before we get blacktop, or?
It all depends on how the spring goes when Monarch gets moving and,
Right, and if you're on
the.
if you're on their schedule, and that's
But we are in the city, so hauling blacktop is not a road ban issue necessarily, or.
It's getting here.
I think the other thing that came up is in talking with Ben the last time when we were discussing this, is how can we set aside a reserve? And if we have the ability to do that, I don't think he said it wouldn't be until into November that we would be able to restate the budget and to be able to say what those numbers are.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we could tell you now that we could do it, but we don't have the actual dollar amounts that would be still, we'd have to reallocate where that money would go.
That probably would take place
Right about budget time?
about the budget hearing times.
Yeah.
There's also, we had discussed at one of the previous meetings about the resurfacing for the community center too. And that was something that we had thought we could possibly use an extra funding.
So Jeff doesn't lose another vehicle in the parking lot.
We have wiggle, room, so.
Yeah, but I guess we have to know what those numbers are. I think that we can say that we support the project. And we'll do our best to try to finance as much as we can this year, just so that we can get it. We don't know exactly what that budget excess will be, but it will be substantially what that is.
When are you done playing pickleball?
You tell me you're gonna have the backhoe there and I'll be off. I'll take all of these folks with me. Actually,
November 1st was when we shut down the parks,
right. Right, and
because we usually pull the nets and everything then anyway, so then we'll be in there on our free will, we'll
Yeah,
wait till then.
and if you decided you were gonna go in before that, we're out of there.
I gotta wait for the okay before I'm gonna do anything, because right now, at least you got somewhere to play.
And that's a couple weeks.
So are we going to, I guess what I'd say in terms of any additional information you need from us, you say that's November 15th, you're gonna have your final budget hearing? Okay. Well, a lot of us will be out of here by then,
Yeah.
but telephone is always available and email. And any of us would be happy to try and answer any questions you
Sure.
might have that might come up, okay?
Can you just take that information and either give it to Patty or
Sure, I'll send you an email.
just email it to her so that
Write things
those
down.
numbers are, what you have, she has.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for doing the legwork on that because it's really hard for us to quantify this
Mhm.
without knowing. I mean, we know what the paving is, but.
Well, and this, this is still, it's an informal group and it's,
Right.
we're working with you this way, but
Well,
we talked about it. Maybe you want to formalize an association or something.
and we've started talking about that too, is that we should have an entity as such and a president or a designated spokesperson for that. And we recognize that need. And I've been in touch with the people over in Rice Lake and gotten a copy of their bylaws, and they're a 507 C rather than a 501c3. And anyway, it seems to be working well for them, but we do need to do that. No question about it. But I think you can see from the number of people here tonight that this is a project that has broad-based support amongst our people, and we'll do what we need to do to see it through.
Thank you much.
Bob.
Just let us know if there's anything we can do, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other budget items that we want to be discussing? So that now you have the library information added in to the budget, which it wasn't there before, I don't think. It was maybe. I couldn't find it.
So everything's
Everything's in there now.
in there. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I make a comment about the airport handling and the pilot? You had the one comment about their pilot license required.
It said should.
Like sport does not only need the driver's license. And you can have a light sport airplane, which is up to Cessna 150. So there's gonna be
Okay,
people that don't need, that's why they put it in.
that's why they put should. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
That would-
Makes sense now.
And it's just still an airport.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marty.
Your name all the time.
That's Marty Noonan, just for by way of. Yeah.
Besides that, like,
Okay. Any other budget related items?
We'll have one more shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
it takes a while to get through that budget item.
Okay,
We'll work on this tonight and then we're gonna put the notice out there, but again, that's not the holy grail. I mean, the hearing is where you can make changes, but we need to get
Right.
something.
Yep.
So when you send out notices for hearings, how do you do that? Do you put it out in the paper? What is your standard
Well,
process
I
for?
don't, But Ben does.
Okay.
But for the public hearing for the budget, that will go in the newspaper.
Mhm.
And that has to go out for 2 weeks. And then it'll go on our website and it'll go 3 public places, which we have 3 public places in this building, plus we hang it on the window so people can see when they go by the building. So actually 4 places.
Is that your process with every public hearing or just with budget hearings?
Just the budget, just the budget.
So normally do we have something out that says we're gonna have a public hearing, like for example, with the wastewater treatment plant or things like that? Okay.
Yes.
And is it generally in the paper or how do we do that?
That is always in the paper.
Okay.
It's always put out in the paper and we do it on the website and we do it. And notify the property owners adjoining. So, yeah, that's always.
Okay, perfect. I've just had questions on it, so I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and another question I actually have on that, on that wavelength as well, is there a way, I feel like on an old website platform, people had the ability to sign up for notifications. Is that still?
It's still an
An
option.
option?
Yep.
So is in. I can't speak to what it does now, but it was when you would get notifications for when this, and this are posted, correct? So I think it's important for the public to know that.
Oh, of course.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's
that you
they can
can.
see that. Yeah, it comes right to their inbox. So, yep.
Thank
And
you.
that's
Ben.
just a matter of registering on the website.
Registering on the website. Yep. We have quite a few subscribers, so.
okay. Done with that.
Mhm.
Public comment.
Evening.
Yeah.
I have a couple of very friendly comments to make regarding some agenda items. On number 4, with the discussion of the offer to purchase. When I saw that on the agenda and the parcel IDs, I thought to myself, how is anybody supposed to know where these parcels are? And who they belong to and what's being talked about? Well, for me, I happen to be handy and I'm able to go to the website and plug in those numbers and see. But it might be helpful if in the future to reasonably apprise the public of exactly what you're consider selling, to use the words or the commonly used name of Soldiers Field, which is how it's known in the city, so people have an easier way understanding exactly what it is that you're going to be talking about. The next comment that I have is on agenda item number 5 for the hotel study proposal. I seem to, well, first of all, I want to say I really am glad that Eric brought up some of his comments that I totally agree with. that no matter who does the study, if they're using the same set of data, it should basically be the same study, which led me to wonder if it had been put out for RFPs at all to get anyone. And it also brought to mind the stink test, which is a public perception of a conflict of interest of the person who is actually doing the study, possibly being an investor or the person who actually builds the hotel. And although certainly everyone deserves the benefit of the doubt, that's something that the council may want to reassure the public of and address at some point, just in my little humble opinion, for whatever that is worth. And then also on agenda item number 8, with the discussion of the airport hangar lease, that brought to mind that I haven't heard anyone talk about how the city's, what the city's strategy is going to be to deal with the repeal of personal property tax in the state, and how the city is going to make up that shortfall, and how the city is going to still tax the hangars, even though we can't give them a personal property tax bill anymore, because there is a way to do that. So just a couple of thoughts I had, just putting out there for whatever it's worth. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure.
Thank you, first of all, for all of your service. It's painstaking to sit and watch sometimes, to go back and watch. And coming up here is important, I think, for people to comment, because as I watch the videos, you can't hear anyone making comments while they sit at their seat. So I appreciate that as well. So I'm here once again for the water treatment plant. At the last council meeting, you advised me and others to go and talk to the engineer and to the DNR, which I did. They're very cordial, very pleasant to talk to, very informative. One of the DNR people I spoke to informed me of the meeting that happened here January 18th. So I was able to go back and watch Jeremiah went give his whole presentation, which was very informative. I think talking to the DNR, I spoke with Monica, and she, I think, has the proposal. And she informed me that it seems like the city council did do a few things out of order with getting us the letters as the property owners, because we should have been informed to be at that meeting in January. But because you had it an open meeting on September 28th, it kind of was an open meeting for us to hear as well. However, there wasn't information there really for us. So I just wanted to comment, I would really encourage all of you to look at the state statute, because what Eric and Jeremiah left out was that there are things that the property owners, the council, or maybe it was Jeremiah, neglected to make sure that the owners, you guys have to have an attempt to obtain agreement from any affected property owner. And there's a lot of ands and ors in there. But just want to let you know that the DNR is aware of, some of those things being out of order. So again, they're very cordial, and I don't want to be that resident that is upset. I'm not, but I love Amory. Enjoyed pickleball with Mr. Wilhelm and basketball camp. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a couple things. One is I did talk to the engineers after they left, and I don't think what you asked them to do was what the planning commission asked for and what you approved at your October 3rd meeting. You said, and the planning commission asked for more detailed information about different options regarding the waste water treatment plant. You approved that recommendation on October 3rd, but that's not what the engineers were asked to do. They were not asked, they told me, they were not asked to do any kind of detailed analysis of any kind regarding the different options. So they didn't do, you did not do what you said you would do. And the second point I wanted to make that I wasn't able to during the meeting was sometime in July, Eric made a presentation talking about the 500-foot encumbrance zone and that there were properties in it that could be developed. That's not true. There are at least 4 or 5 lots in that area. I own 2 of them that are buildable lots that I could sell and have homes built on. And under the encumbrance, I would not be able to do that. Many of the other people who own property that is currently vacant or is not being used for residential purposes. So there's at least 4 or 5 properties there, but if this encumbrance zone is approved, become worthless to us. And that's a problem. That's a financial issue that the city's going to have to deal with. So I think you need to go back to the engineers and tell them to do what the planning commission asked and what you approved at the October meeting, and that is to get more detailed information about options. Otherwise, how can you believe your word or the action that you take? That's it. There's a lot more I have to say, but that's it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, closed session, Wisconsin statute 19.85 sub 1 sub C, employee wages, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make that motion.
Can it?
Was made and seconded. Please do roll call.
Yes.
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 Elkin,
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Out of closed session, motion to adjourn is in order.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed.
We're done.
Aye.